European Union member states have struck a deal to reduce their use of Russian gas. Nations will make voluntary cuts of 15% between August and March as autumn and then winter descend on the continent. To secure the agreement, its terms were substantially watered down. Countries not connected to other member states' gas pipelines will be exempted from any mandatory gas reduction orders, given the lack of alternatives at their disposal. And those that are not connected to the European electrical system will also be exempted. The agreement comes one day after Russian energy giant Gazprom announced it was again reducing the flow of gas through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, citing the need for maintenance on turbines.
15% will probably not be enough, given what the Russians have just announced, a further reduction in their gas supplies through Nord Stream 1. But it's better than not having it, and I think the signal it sends is also important to our citizens and to the wider world.
Yesterday, Gazprom announced additional cut on the gas supplies, which immediately caused a price increase. And this is just an additional evidence or proof that we have to take the game in our hands, and we have to reduce the dependencies on Russian supplies as soon.
Previously, Gazprom cut supplies to countries including Denmark, Finland and the Netherlands over their refusal to make payments in rubles. Western nations and Ukraine have slammed Russia for its latest actions. EU chiefs call it energy blackmail, and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has branded it Russian gas warfare.
We know that there is no technical reason to do so. This is a politically motivated step, and we have to be ready for that. And exactly for that reason, the preemptive reduction of our gas demand is a wise strategy.
Live to Brussels now, and WION's correspondent there, Rosie Burchard. Rosie, this deal was very substantially diluted in order to bring it across the finishing lines. I mean, just how much impact and teeth does it actually have?
Well, the original plan was for all EU countries to uniformly cut gas consumption by 15% right through until the spring, and for the European Commission, which is the EU's executive, to be able to make those cuts mandatory in the case of a supply emergency. Now, as you rightly said, critics would say this is a watered-down version of that deal which has been struck. Others might say this is a more tailor-made version of the plan. Now, what that includes, what ministers have agreed here in Brussels in this building today, is the following. The cuts will be voluntary as standard. Making them mandatory will be more in the hands of EU member states, so less in the hands of the European Commission. And some member states will be entirely exempt from those mandatory cuts. That includes, for example, Malta, Cyprus, Ireland and the Baltics, due to their geographic specificities. So, for example, those island nations that are not connected to other EU gas pipelines. There will also be possible derogations for certain countries. That's because some EU nations, which are not reliant on Russian gas, had previously complained that it would be unfair for their citizens to have to make the cut when they hadn't built up those toxic dependencies. There had been a complaint, for example, in the past from Spain saying Spaniards had not lived beyond their means in terms of energy, and that was a veiled criticism really toward Germany, Germany being the EU's biggest economy, and economy which is still reliant on Russian gas. I spoke to Germany's Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck, and he said that even with all these compromises, this still is a mechanism with teeth, and it's something which will, he believes, be able to get EU countries through the winter. But as we heard just before I came on the air, also Eamon Ryan, Ireland's energy minister, he spread some doubt there. He said 15% may not be enough, particularly in light of those latest cuts announced by Gazprom. Gazprom, that Russian energy giant, of course, says that those cuts are down to Western sanctions, are down to repairs, and are down to contractual issues. The EU, on the other hand, accuses Moscow of using energy as a weapon.
And let's cast forward a few months, Rosie, because obviously Europe's in the middle of summer right now and energy usage is down. And for many European citizens, the prospect of a chilly winter seems a long way off. But you've already heard talk in Germany of the possible need for rationing gas and energy consumption as the winter months bear down. I mean, if that becomes a widespread phenomenon across the European continent, the political consequences of that for member states' governments are going to be substantial and uncertain.
Absolutely, and it was indeed member states trying to sell this to their citizens that might have caused some of those divisions coming into this meeting. Now, as you mentioned, Germany has already spoken about the potential need for rationing, and what this original plan was designed to do was to be able to allow the European Commission to essentially force member states' hands, to compel them to ration in the case of a supply emergency. That's the mechanism that they have toned down, the mechanism they've tried to put back into their own hands, and that will raise some doubts moving forward. Now, the European Union's Energy Commissioner, Kadri Simpson, says that even if all of these potential exemptions are put into place, there will be enough gas to get through an average winter. But what happens if it's a very cold winter? As you rightly say, Europe is boiling in the aftermath of a summer heat wave just now, but ministers are trying to look ahead to the next winter. One other thing that member states have tried to ease in this mechanism was originally supposed to last for 2 years. They've sliced that down to 1 year. That has also drawn criticism because some say, OK, you might make it through this winter, but what happens next winter? Of course, we've heard those very sobering warnings, including from NATO's chief Jens Stoltenberg, that this conflict in Ukraine could go on for months, if not years. So EU member states trying to look into the future there and balance those big policy plans with that support for Ukraine and also with trying to cater to their citizens.
Stay warm while you can. That's WION's Europe correspondent Rosie Burchard reporting for us live from Brussels today.